To the Madhouse, Batman. I'm B Savage Outlaw. Welcome back, guys. We got another awesome podcast, a glorious podcast, should I say. We are talking any and all things Batman. What an awesome thing for us to be talking about here today. Flash, can you believe that we're to that time where we're going to be speaking about Batman?
Been a long-awaited one. It's been a part of our plans for a while. What is up, everybody? I am the Flash, obvious DC fan by the name. I'm also joined by our other fellow co-host, Moose. Say hello.
How's it going, everyone? I love Batman and all the characters surrounding it, so I'm really looking forward to this episode.
Yes, we are all looking forward to this episode, guys. One of the big things that got me into Batman was not any animated series or anything like that. It was actually Tim Burton's Batman with Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton.
Yep.
Awesome movie that was. And the thing of it is, it was out for several years when I watched, before I even watched it. It was out almost 10 years before I even watched it. So, but great movie. It was a great representation of who Bruce Wayne was, who Batman was. Dark, mysterious, but playboy, billionaire, philanthropist. So, but Flash, when did you get involved in the Batman world?
Mine actually did start with the animated Batman, but I wasn't really into it back then. I was still die-hard Marvel fan at that point. Now, what got me into Batman was reading the very first Injustice comic that ever came out. Because you got to see how much he stuck to his morals and how much he was willing to sacrifice whatever it took to not be the person who crossed that line. But shortly after that was The Dark Knight for me. And then I was just hooked on DC after that. That started a whole rabbit hole. I started watching Keaton. I watched Adam West. Like, I watched anything Batman, I was for it. So that's what started it for me. How about you, Moose?
Yeah, I think when I started, it was around 2010. I want to say, uh, the same uncle who got me hooked in Star Wars got me into DC. So, I think I started out with Arkham Knight actually, with the games first, and then I started going back and watching the movies and stuff.
Sounds like your uncle had good taste.
Yeah,
He,
I'd say.
he introduced me to Star Wars and DC and Marvel and stuff like that. So he introduced me to a lot of stuff.
You know what? We all need an uncle like that. But yeah, I tell you what. There's so many things that when it comes to Batman and a lot of stuff in the DC universe. When it comes to stuff like that, there's so many things that we could talk about. We can go into Injustice. We can go into all the Batman movies, which I'm sure we'll touch base on a lot of those tonight. But the main thing that we're going to be talking about tonight, guys, is one of the best game series of all time. I am talking about the Arkham series. Now, I don't know what or how much you guys have played of the Arkham series. I've played all four games through their duration. And I still say probably hands down the best freaking game series that I've ever played. So I mean, we're like, have you guys played any of those? Played any of those? I'm struggling to get more words out here.
It's all
We're,
good. I think I played every single. If it's a Batman game, I played it. Like, if it had anything to do with DC, I played it because, like I said, diehard DC fan. You can tell by the name. Um, so
Since when?
like, I think I played Arkham Knight first, actually. Like, that's what started it for me was Arkham Knight, and I was like, oh, this game's fun, and I thought it was a solo game. I thought that was it. I was like, I feel like I'm missing something, but it's fun. And then I did my research, found out there's a whole series of it, and then I started from the beginning, and it was just I never loved a DC game more until Gotham Knights came out. I never loved a series of games more until Gotham Knight came out.
Yeah, man. The thing of it is, like, you definitely not playing any of the other Arkham games and starting with Arkham Knight, you are missing a huge storyline, and I'm talking monumentally huge. Um, so Moose, what all of the Arkham? Have you played any of the Arkham series?
Some I think the only ones I've done is the Arkham Asylum to completion. Did a little bit of Arkham City, I think it was. I did like the first like mission or two, but didn't find the disc after that. And then most recently, we all played the Gotham Knights together, so that was pretty fun.
Well, speaking of Gotham Knights, I think that'd be a good place for us to start, since that was the most recent one that we have all
Oh, yeah.
played. Um, Gotham Knights came out just last year. Probably one of the best games of the year, in my opinion. You got 4 different characters that you could play as. You could play as Batgirl, you could play as Red Hood, Nightwing, and Robin. Now, we all had our characters that we fell in love with and that we specifically um, kind of just molded into. Um, Flash, you decided that Nightwing was your way to go. How was it being the Nightwing on Gotham Knights?
I decided I was Nightwing before I even played Gotham Knights. I already staked my claim in that one. I was just like, I'm playing Nightwing, I am calling it. But little did I know he would actually fit my playstyle to a T. The combat, the special abilities, the mobility, and even the glider he has, it fit my playstyle. Like I was meant to play that character in that game. It just worked perfectly, you know?
Right. Moose, you gravitated towards Robin. Now, I'm sure some of it had to do with the fact that Flash was playing as Nightwing and I was playing as Red Hood, but what did you like about using the Robin character in the game?
Yeah, you're right though. Like you being Red Hood and Flash being Nightwing, but honestly, I really enjoyed the playstyle. Like I was looking at his weapon and stuff like that before I started it, and I was like hesitant at first. Like he uses a bow staff and like slingshot, and honestly, I got really acclimated to his playstyle, and I really enjoyed it. And I like his like he has an ability where if he's like jumping off a building, he could teleport in midair. So I really liked that, and honestly, I've just been getting better and better with his abilities, and honestly, with Tim Drake's personality is kind of similar to mine too.
All over the place and off the wall? Yeah, I get it.
I think we I think we all gravitated though towards the funniest way, we all gravitated towards the characters who personality wise were a lot like us as well. Like Moose, you got Tim Drake, the goofy youngin who was just there because like, you know what, I'm
The
just
youngest
here,
one
you
there.
know? And then me as Nightwing picking the guy who's realistically in our friend group, let's look at it. I'm usually the one that gets picked on the most. And
Eh,
I'm like
You're like the
I'm
we
goody
like
kill each other
two
a
shoes.
lot.
I'm like goofy and all of that stuff and just funny like in the way just Nightwing is as well. So like I think his personality fit mine perfectly too. And Savage, you with Red Hood being like one, your play style, but also kind of being like a little bit like more aggressive in personality wise. Like I think each of us picked the characters that just well defined us in any way as well.
100% Flash, 100%. Yeah. So speaking of Red Hood, yes, I gravitated towards Red Hood. I was kind of in a position where I was like, I didn't know who I was going to pick at the start of it. I love Red Hood's costume, but I was like, let me see how everything goes with Red Hood. That's who I ended up starting with. Boy, let me tell you, as soon as I picked up his fight style, the play style for him, I was just like, dude, this dude is a wrecking machine. Everything about Red Hood, the seriousness that he had, I mean, the dude has a troubled past. And I mean, he has got a troubled past. I mean, the dude died. I mean, come on, let's talk about it. The dude died. Then got put in the Lazarus pit and then has to suffer through all of that. But on the same hand, the Lazarus pit gives him the abilities that he has, all right, and makes him the brute force that he is. But one of the cool things that the Lazarus pit did for him was the way, so get to the top of a building and you go to jump off. Kind of like how Moose with Robin, he's able to teleport, but me, it's not teleporting. I jump and then I land on an invisible platform and it bounces me up in the air again, and then I can just basically skip across the sky to get to where I'm going. Flash, there was one really cool piece. I don't know if you remember this, but I clipped it where I'm trying to get to you. You were in the middle of a fight. I tried to get to you, and when I came down without the grappling hook or anything, I landed right smack dab on somebody's head and crushed him. So, yeah, I just gravitated towards his playstyle.
We had some hell of a good combos though when we played together. Like just it looked like it should have been out of a movie. Even you, Moose, and me and you and Tim Drake and you and Savage, all of us. So we had some movie quality combos going on there.
Yeah.
I even remember
really
like speaking of combos, I remember I would just hold people and be like, "Hey guys, come here! I got one! I got one!" And I'd be like, "Come here! I got one!"
Which
Like, come finish him with me.
The thing of it is, you can see Dick Grayson actually standing back to be like, guys, come here, let's finish this one off. You can see him doing something like that. So, like, it was like a lot of it. You were absolutely right. There was so much in that we were able to just like, oh, this is basically like a freaking movie. So, with all this talking about our characters, let's go into what this game was about. All right, this game had a lot of seriousness. Real quick, spoiler alerts if you've not played the game yet. So if you've not played the game yet, you don't want to be spoiled, click off this podcast, go play it, and then come back and join us for the fun. So, the story revolves around Bruce Wayne, Batman, inadvertently dies while facing off against Ra's al Ghul. With that ended up happening, the Gotham Knights, the four of us, would be, like we said, Red Hood, Nightwing, Batgirl, and Robin. Sorry, I didn't mean to mention you last, Moose. Just habit. But the four of us had to go out and figure out what caused Bruce's death, who was behind it, and it ends up delving into something much bigger than just Bruce Wayne's death. And it just absolutely goes from total freaking insanity to total, shitstorm in all of like 2 seconds from there on out. So, yeah, I mean, we face off against the Court of Owls. We face off against Talia Al Ghul. So, like, the list of Clayface, Harley Quinn, like, the amount of villains that we get to face in this game, it just gives you that Gotham feel. You feel like you're in Gotham fighting these superbads.
I think it was a very, very well done, very immersive game, as honestly. I still remember, I think my favorite moment in the game, probably one of the funniest too, was when me and Savage went up against Mr. Freeze for the very first time, and we both ran out of heals at the last leg. We had no heals left, and here we are. Savage keeps getting knocked. I keep rolling to revive him, and then I get knocked, and then he keeps coming to get me. So it's just a constant battle of picking each other up.
And let's not forget in that we decided it would be a good idea to go up against Mr. Freeze using completely new characters for us. I ended up using Robin, and you were using Batgirl in that moment. And that was not a smart decision going up against a boss fight with brand new characters who did not have the upgrades that we had with our normal characters.
Yeah, it was not smart, and we struggled a lot. But it made me realize that Batgirl was my second favorite, at least.
Yeah, and you were very good with her.
Yeah, despite that, we still beat him. I don't think we died. If I'm not mistaken.
No,
I don't think
I think we did once. I think one time we did. But it reset us where he was like halfway through his health, I think. But we learned, because we did end up going up against Mr. Freeze again later on in the game, just outside of Blackgate. And we learned our lesson from the first time.
Oh, yeah. So. But the whole time, Moose is in our ear, too, because unfortunately, and probably my biggest complaint with this game is it's only two-player co-op for the storyline. That's probably
Yeah.
my biggest complaint. But this whole
Why do you
time,
have
Moose
four
is
characters?
yeah,
Four
exactly. Why do you
characters
have
and
four
not have four-player
characters?
co-op. Co-op.
But
Like,
like this whole time we're having this boss battle, Moose is in his own gameplay in our ears telling us, "Oh, just wait till you face him again." And I'm like, "Again?"
And then you could go
oh,
back and do like the upgraded battles as well.
Oh, I
yeah, because you
remember that.
guys, yeah, because you
We didn't.
guys were talking to me about how you went back to face Harley Quinn and
That
how
We
was
it was
almost
like,
got her too. We almost got her.
we got to that like final stage in the hospital, I think it was, and then
Mm.
we just kept dying. Like she just kept doing her attacks and stuff.
It was explosive after explosive. Like it was
Yep.
never ending, and Moose kept getting downed, and I'm like, "How am I alive?" Just doing only
Like
my ranged attacks.
right as soon as I would stand up, she would drop another explosive on my head.
And it was a
you
last
know,
ditch effort every time to try to get you.
and imagine the thing of it is, imagine if somebody like the Joker would have been one of the villains. That would have been
That would have
intense.
been intense. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
don't
would have
even
been
think
would
they
have been
intense.
meant.
crazy.
I don't even think they mention him in that game, which is kind of funny if you think about it, because he was such a pivotal part of the Arkham series.
Yeah. Well, but the thing of it is, I think what ended up, I think there was one slight mention when you were like doing your dealings with Harley and stuff like that. I think there was a slight mention of the Joker, but that was it. But like it's like you said in the Arkham series, in the Batman universe in general, the Joker is probably, and we'll get more involved on all things the Joker because he was a big pivotal part in the Arkham series, like you said. But you know, I really feel like that was the one of the main things that they missed out on was involving maybe a little bit more Joker. But then again,
I don't know where they would
it's
add it.
well, and that's just it. Like, we're talking about a completely separate thing, supposedly. Even though it seems like there was tie-ins with the Arkham series and Gotham Knights, it felt like there was tie-ins, but realistically, it was a completely different scenario than what all was transpiring when Bruce Wayne Batman was going up against the Joker and all the characters in the Arkham series.
Well, and you also got to think the Joker is Batman's. Like, and you look at their dynamic in movies, in cartoons, in video games, you look at the dynamic between the two characters,
They
and the
complete
Joker
each other.
really is, yeah, the Joker really is Batman's. So putting him in a game like this, in hindsight as well, makes a little more sense for him not to be in it because this is the new generation of heroes. The old generation of heroes is gone, so why is the villain that belonged to the old generation going to stick around as well? Like it would almost be
But on the same hand, all
like
the
it
other
would
ones did.
almost like be cursing the character's story essentially, like ruining it. I feel like as well in hindsight. Like it would have been nice to hear more of the Joker, but on the same hand, I understand why he wasn't in it.
Yeah,
But
and so getting back into the whole story arc of Arkham or of hello Arkham, getting into the whole
Right.
story arc of Gotham Knights, getting into the whole story of Gotham Knights, we do eventually get to a point where we find out Bruce actually, well, he did still die, but he was actually brought back to life, and it was probably one of the more gut wrenching parts of the entire game because he gets brought back to life through the Lazarus pit just for him to sacrifice himself, for
and
his team.
I don't think it's even heart-wrenching just for that reason either.
To
Like
fight
I think
him.
it's well no, it's even it's even like well, I guess it's during the fight in a way, kind of after the fight ish is when just the things he says to the characters. Like I've seen the playthroughs for Batgirl and Robin, but I've experienced the playthrough for uh Red Hood and Nightwing because I when I fought I played with Savage. So I saw the Red Hood playthrough and I saw the Nightwing playthrough as well because I played as Nightwing. And those two I feel like are the most gut-wrenching exchanges of lines together because he's like I telling Jason Todd, I knew you could be better, and telling Nightwing, I'm proud of you. And in those moments, it's just like, my God, you couldn't make those scenes any more gut-wrenching.
Well, and the thing of it is, Jason Todd and Dick Grayson, they were the first. Obviously Dick Grayson was the complete first, and then he became Nightwing, and then Jason Todd ended up becoming Robin. But they were his first sidekicks, his first two sidekicks. So the relationship that he had with those two was stronger than, say, with Batgirl or Robin, because Robin was still just a teenager.
And realistically speaking, you look at his age in that game, and you know the comics. Like, say you know the comics, he recently became Robin. Like, he's only been at it for a couple of years now or so. Jason Todd has died and come back to life, and is probably, I'm gonna say, my best guess is early 20s, and Dick Grayson's in his mid 20s.
Yeah.
They've been doing this for 10 or so years now, and they're expected to take up this whole mantle, and realistically, Dick Grayson is expected to be the leader, and he takes that to heart, and he's like thinking it's all him, which is a trait he got from Bruce, is he thinks this all lies on him, when realistically, no one of them should be the leader. They should all be working together. And I think that's the point this game also tries to drive, is that none of them are alone.
And another thing to factor into that was, you always had Jason Todd kind of breathing down Dick Grayson's back, because anything that Dick Grayson wanted to do, Jason wanted to do the complete opposite. And they had to, like, their story arc alone, they had to learn how to, be one as a unit. So, like, just their story arc going through, the story arc between Moose's character and Red Hood, just, all of the relationships just developing is incredible.
Well, and I think the way it works with Tim Drake and Red Hood is really interesting too, because Tim Drake and Dick Grayson's relationship is not really a clear one, but you can tell that Tim Drake kind of in a way looks up to Red Hood as well.
Yeah.
Like in those flashback scenes, you can see it.
Yeah. So, here's one thing that kind of, I applaud the makers of Gotham Knights for this. All right. When I saw that it was Barbara Gordon playing as Batwoman, that got me thinking, well, is this like a different, is this different than, her as the Oracle? Like, is this like a different universe of Batman? Or is this the same one where the Joker gunned her down? And then we find out later on, it is the same universe where the Joker gunned her down and paralyzed her, but there was a special mechanism used to help keep, because I think Flash, you pointed this out. There was a special piece that was put on her back, and it's supposed to stabilize her and let her be able to use her legs.
Yeah.
Which I applaud them for including that little detail, which actually kind of makes it more significant than what you think. But bravo for including that detail.
Yep.
Well, because if you remember from Arkham Knight as well, like they went into the whole scene when Batman was on Joker's fear toxin, where she got shot by the Joker and was paralyzed. Now, does that lead you to believe this takes place in that same universe? I thought so, but then the makers of the game come out and say no, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusing factors in this game, because you see all this stuff going on and you're like, it really feels like we're in the Arkham universe, because Wayne Manor's not even Wayne Manor's already destroyed, isn't it? It was already destroyed.
I believe so, yeah.
So, because the Batcave wasn't underneath of Wayne Manor, it was like somewhere completely different. So
it was, I think if I remember correctly, there were a few Batcaves.
Yeah, and but the one that he was in was not the one underneath of his mansion. So I call BS on the whole. It's not part of the Arkham. I don't care what they say. I call BS.
I mean, that could very well be the child in us that played the Arkham games, though, and we want to believe there's a continuation for this story. We want to believe there's something after the Arkham series, because people don't want to think, oh, Gotham's at the mercy of everybody now because Batman blew himself up. No, no one wants to believe that. And then, like, you even see Batman at the beginning fighting Raish. And it's like, well, he's not dead. He's clearly doing Batman stuff still. So then that also leads you to believe it's a different universe. So
Yeah. So like they were very confusing on a lot of different things. So, but still, overall, great game. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I feel like we need to get back into it, boys.
we really do. Because there's that 3-player co-op as well where we can all play
It's
together. And
actually a
what?
4-player, isn't it?
Oh, it might be 4-player, but oh yeah, I'm saying 3-player because our other
Only the
counterpart, who
3 of us
unfortunately couldn't join us today, um, is didn't want to
can have the
download the
game.
game. So we did play the 3 of us, and that's why I was thinking 3. But it regardless, it was a lot of fun, honestly, and we still
It
need to
was.
plow more than halfway through that.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't even think we got halfway.
I
No,
think we only got to like level 15 or 20.
Yeah,
and what is there,
because
100?
yeah, so we got a ways to go.
We got some work to
that's
do.
definitely something. Yeah, that's definitely something that we need to get back into. Speaking of getting back into, let's backtrack a little bit here. All right, before we get into uh the greatest series of all time, let's talk a little movie time. All right, what do you guys feel like was the best representation of Batman in the Batman films? All right, you can go from Adam West, his universe of Batman. You can go Tim Burton's 2 movies, which were probably 2 of my favorites,
Hmm.
or you can go with the Dark Knight series. We're not going to mention Bat Nipples. Yeah, we're not mentioning George Clooney. He doesn't count. Oh, and there's
Well,
also Batfleck.
I'm not really sure I'd include Clooney. I don't think I'd include Kilmer either. I wasn't really a fan of either of them. Kilmer was better than Clooney. They were
Yes.
both meh. And the fact that they tried to make it like it was part of the same storyline of Keaton, I think didn't really help their case either, rather than making it something original altogether. Um, Although I will admit, probably my favorite rendition of the Riddler will always be Jim Carrey's.
Yeah, when you
Um,
think the Riddler, you think Jim Carrey.
He
yeah,
has just
but
that like energetic personality for it.
he plays that role. He played that role so well. But as far as Batman goes, for some Batman, I think it depended on the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like Adam West, he was a good Batman for the time. Is he a
Yes.
good Batman now? The older generation would probably still say so. And I think he's entertaining, he's funny, but he's not really fitting the description of the Batman we have now. I
Yeah. In
think,
my sorry, in my the way I see it, Adam West is kind of like the William Shatner of the Batman series. All right,
mhm,
everybody
yeah,
knows how enunciated William Shatner is.
hmm,
So, and I see Adam West kind of like that. Good for his time, but as time goes on, there were definitely better Batmans.
yeah, and I think Ben Affleck had his pros and cons. I think he did. I think he fell victim to poor writing.
Yes,
Um,
100%.
I think he could have done a much better job with the role because I enjoy him as an actor. Um, as far as my favorite Batman goes, I will live action. I will go with Christian Bale personally. Dark Knight has always played a huge role in my life, so he did a great separation of the Dark Knight and Bruce Wayne.
Genius play,
And he
genius Playboy billionaire philanthropist.
and he did a good job at separating those two, and it did a good job of posing the question, who is the mask? Who is really the mask? Is Bruce Wayne the mask or is Batman the mask? It did a great job at posing that question. Now, rest in peace. We can always say Kevin Conroy was the best.
Yes, Kevin Conroy's voice acting as Batman, absolutely legendary. Rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. You have brought joy to our lives, our younger selves. will definitely miss you as Batman. And he got to do the Batman voice for a very long time, very
Yeah.
long time.
Longer than most. But Moose, what about you? What's your favorite Batman or least favorite? Just insight.
I mean, I'm the Michael Keaton's like very dear to my heart because that's like when I think of Batman, that's like the original Batman that I think of. Then I think of like the Batman from the games, but I just loved like the original Batman with Keaton and Nicholson. Like I loved seeing Nicholson as the Joker, and I did like the animation with Mark Hamill as the Joker too. So I
Oh,
liked like
Mark Hamill.
Hold on, we're gonna get to that.
yep, but yeah, excuse me, Michael Keaton. I liked seeing him as Batman originally, and it was nice seeing him back in the Flash movie as well.
Still haven't seen it yet. Still want to see it. So no spoilers, Moose. So I'm kind of in the same boat as Moose, honestly. Like, you both present good, valid points for both Christian Bale's Batman and Michael Keaton's Batman. I gravitate more towards Michael Keaton's Batman just for the simple fact of that's the first Batman movies that I watched.
Me too.
Michael Keaton versus Jack Nicholson. Michael Keaton versus Robert De Niro, right? No, not De Niro.
Who
Yeah,
was the villain in that movie?
he was the Penguin. Wow.
That's right.
Oh, Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito, thank you. Wow, I'm
Yes.
like way off.
No,
Danny
I
DeVito.
knew. Yeah, Danny
Yeah, let me put
DeVito.
some respect on his name. Like, I tell you what, the villain, how these villains were in these movies was absolutely incredible. And we're going to talk more about the villains here in a minute. But yeah, and as far as the Christian Bale Batman goes, very well played. Honestly, both him and Michael Keaton, though, I feel like did a very good job separating Batman from Bruce Wayne. You know, I think you're right. I think Christian Bale probably did a better job of it because he really laid on that, like, Bruce Wayne, I'm rich, but I
I'm
still
rich.
care.
I get all the girls, and everything is just because I have all this money. And then you see the Batman side of it, and you're like, I'm dark. I'm a loner. I'm doing
Gonna kick
this
your
for the good of
ass.
people. I can't let anyone close to me, sort of person.
Christian Bale is definitely like my second favorite, like close second.
I think he did a good job representing that character. And I think I found a good segue. For every good Batman, there has
Amazing
been
Joker.
a good Joker.
Yes. So many Jokers to talk about here, guys. We have, all right, and we'll go ahead and we'll go from. I'll start with probably my least favorite. We have Jared Leto, and I don't think a lot of it was Jared Leto's fault. I think he fell victim to circumstance, kind of like a lot
The
of other
writing.
people. A lot of other people in the time of these movies, Suicide Squad and Batman versus Superman, the actors kind of fell victim to the bad writing.
Yep.
But still, hands down, my least favorite Joker. But you got Jared Leto, you got Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger, rest in peace.
Ooh. Those are
Mark
really good.
Hamill. Mark Hamill. All right. I don't care what anybody says. Live action, it's Heath Ledger all day. But in the entire Batman universe, Mark Hamill will forever be the Joker.
That
I don't care
laugh
what
is just
anybody says.
iconic.
Oh, it
The
Yeah.
is.
laugh is
100%.
iconic. Like he played that role so well to the point where most of us first saw him as Luke Skywalker. You see that Joker and you're like, wait, that's the same guy?
Yeah.
Like,
And the thing of it is, talking about Mark Hamill. All right, look at his name. All right, I saw this on Facebook a couple years ago. If you look at his name, all right, Mark. The last three letters of Mark is ARK. All right, Hamill. First three letters is HAM. You put those six together, you got Arkham. You
huh.
didn't know about that.
For those who are going to be listening to this through audio, the look of realization in my face right there was
I mean, that was the
crazy.
first time that I was hearing that too.
I can't believe that's the
So,
first time you guys heard about that. So that right there just shows Mark Hamill is the Joker. He is Luke
that,
Skywalker, but he is the Joker.
how about that? I'm just coming to that realization for the first time today. It was today years old when I found that out.
Yep, when I
Huh.
first found that out, I had the same reaction. I'm just like, it
He
all
was
makes
born for that
sense
role.
now. Yep.
That
So,
they just knew. They actually named Arkham after Mark Hamill.
yep, facts. Put it in
Um,
writing.
but I think a lesser known Joker didn't even need a Batman to do a good job. Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh, that was really
Yes,
good, honestly.
Dark movie, very dark
very
movie, but he
dark,
played the
very dark.
Joker so well. He did
Hmm.
such a good job. And he didn't even need a Batman to do it. It just showed what society turned him into. But they
Thing of it
did
is,
such a good job grasping hi- that character in a new way that no one has ever seen before.
yeah, and the thing of it is, like, like he really brings out the way his acting was and the way that it was written. That movie was very well written. All right, but he brings out, you know, the mental side. What led him to being the Joker in the first place? All right, I think it's no question. Obviously the Joker has mental issues. All right, we see that tenfold in the movie The Joker. So yes, Walking Phoenix, very good job on his rendition of the Joker.
Still partial to falling into the vat of toxic waste, but they did
Yes.
still a very good job nonetheless. And honestly, I went into that movie not expecting good things. I did not
Yeah.
expect good things at all, but I watched it. I'm like, dark as hell. Has me looking at this movie like, what? But it was still good.
Just like your mom.
So, and then there's another lesser known Joker. He only had a couple minutes in the movie. All right. Of course, I'm talking about the newer Batman movie that just came out, last year or the year before that? All right. Just labeled The
Robert
Batman.
Pattinson's, right?
Robert
Yeah.
Pattinson's Batman, which we didn't even talk about Robert Pattinson. He did a very good job as a young Bruce Wayne / Batman.
I think he did a good job as Batman. I will not speak for his Bruce Wayne. He only had one movie, so I cannot speak for his Bruce Wayne yet. I think to really develop a Bruce Wayne, you can't just do it in one movie.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, like, we're talking about a younger Bruce Wayne here. We're talking about a Bruce Wayne that's still coming back from his training with the League of Shadows. We're still talking about a Bruce Wayne who's still broken over everything that's happened in his life and hasn't really fully embraced everything that has to do with being Bruce Wayne. So if they did another movie, I would not be upset. But
And can
anyways,
we just acknowledge the beauty of his and Catwoman's relationship in that movie? How
Yeah.
beautifully that was written.
yes, perfect. It was a perfect. Now, granted, I don't think he had a relation in the Batman universe. I don't think Batman had a relationship with Selena Kyle that early in his life. I think their relationship was actually a little bit further down the road, but still very well put together. But anyways, what I was gonna say was there was a small clip at the end of the movie when the Riddler got put into, was it Blackgate or what was he put into Arkham? I can't
I
remember
don't
which
think it
He
was
which
Arkham.
Blackgate.
I think it
was
was
it Blackgate?
Blackgate, yeah.
It was probably just before Arkham was built. Um, and that's the crazy thing. Like Arkham in this movie, I don't think Arkham exists at all. So everything's still
Not
Blackgate.
yet. Yeah.
But yeah, we see the Joker for all of like 2 minutes, and then there's also a deleted scene that he's in. But I'm not a fan because it looked like he had the stapled Joker face
Yeah.
in that. So
Which is a
I'm
little
not.
early.
Yeah, a lot early for that. So, but I mean, it wasn't terrible. I'm not going to say that it was the worst rendition. I still think Jared Leto's Joker was the worst, but I'm not going to stand back and say it's among the greats as far as the Joker goes. But then again, you can't judge a Batman / Bruce Wayne on one movie. You can't judge the Joker on just one scene.
Yeah, I won't. I'll reserve judgment till I see it. I heard there was potential for another movie, so we'll see. So I'm gonna reserve judgment until the time comes where I need to judge.
Yeah. So, like I said, all great, a lot of good movies. Even Val Kilmer and George Clooney's had their bright spots. Not many, but they had their bright spots in their movies. I think Poison Ivy was actually done very well in
Yeah.
in what was it, Batman and Robin. I think her rendition of Poison Ivy was actually pretty well done. Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze. I didn't
Mediocre.
hate it. I didn't
Mediocre.
hate it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah.
But the suit, I hated the suit. I
Yeah.
absolutely hated the suit. It does not give me
Why?
a Mr. Freeze vibe.
I think costume design in general in that movie was lacking
Yeah.
very much.
Yeah, 100%. And the fact that they made Alfred's niece or granddaughter, no, niece, his niece, as the first Batwoman, that was completely out of left field, I think.
I think
Because
you need to
usually,
have a Jim Gordon and you need to have a Barbara Gordon
that's what I
for
was gonna
that to
say.
be, yeah. I
Because
think
Barbara
that's,
Gordon was the original Batwoman.
well, actually, so there's a very I'm picky about this. Some people aren't, but there is a Batwoman and there is a Batgirl.
Okay.
Barbara Gordon
My
is
bad.
the Batgirl, and Kate Kane, who's Batman's cousin or Bruce Wayne's cousin, is Batwoman.
Okay.
Just like
I mean,
Supergirl versus Superman.
no, there's a very clear difference there.
That's what I was saying.
Um, but I think yes, there's no, some people wouldn't make a big deal of it either. It's just something I have pointed out in the past because it's just major DC nerd here and
Right. No, you're
Why do
but
good.
you watch DC?
but I think it needs to be Barbara Gordon to be
Yes.
Batgirl.
Yes. 100%. So before we get back into the big topic of the series that we're getting ready to talk about, we were talking a little bit about the villains. Let's go over them a little bit more. All right. I don't think there's going to be a question that the Joker is everybody's favorite villain. Okay, so toss him out. He's not a factor in this decision. He is not a factor in this decision. Your favorite Batman villain, aside in the movie series, in all the movies, aside from the Joker. Moose, why don't you start us off here?
Honestly, I think it was probably Poison Ivy. Like, I just like the idea. Like, I know she wasn't like really one of the main villains. I think Joker definitely overshadowed, like, was the main villain in all of the movies, but most of the movies at least. But I like the idea of like I like her powers and everything, like the character design in most of the movies. So I think she was my favorite.
Like I said, I didn't hate her. I thought she did a fairly decent job as Poison Ivy. What about
Yeah.
you, Flash? You look like you're thinking.
Oh, that's a difficult one though. There's so many good. Batman? Arguably in the Batman universe, he has the most well-developed villains. Honestly,
Yeah,
like, they're all developed. DC does a good job at developing their villains, at least in the comics, anyway. Um, so, but I think Batman, since that was the very first real DC superhero, it's just they've had more time to develop those characters, and I'm trying to think which one's the best. But you got people like Two-Face who are just so complex, and realistically,
about him.
if the base definition of fairness is what he lives by, it's a psychotic version, but he lives by fairness, chance, unbiased, which it's psychotic, but very what in his eyes he's being the good guy, which is very well done. But you also got people like the Riddler who are basically rivaled to the Joker, more or less the same, just in a different way. And then you got people like Mr. Freeze, who's not even really a villain. He does the right things for the wrong reason, or the wrong things for the right reason. I can speak, words are hard. Um, but
Clayface.
like they Clay, even Clayface, this for societal standards, he's a good-looking guy. Like basically, that's how they try to depict his character, and then he turns into a pile of sludge. One of the best actors, best looking actors even, and he turns into a pile of sludge. Like you can't make that stuff up. And then you got characters like Harley Quinn who are an upstanding citizen, grade A psychiatrist, and all it takes is a psycho on the other end of a chair to make her screws go loose. Like they have such good, well-developed villains. I can't pick
Cool.
How I
exactly,
feel
and
all the time.
I can't pick just one. Like, and even the TV show Gotham, oh my God, they do a brilliant job depicting those villains in a whole new light.
Mm-hmm.
And I think no matter what universe you're in, they always depict Penguin as a coward because realistically, he'll do whatever
Yeah.
it takes to stay alive.
Yep.
So it's
Every
He'll
hard to
side
pick
with the
just
good guys,
one.
but he'll also side with the bad guys. Whatever keeps him
Whatever,
alive.
whatever benefits him. And then Raish is just on his own warpath the entire
Yeah.
time. But I really can't pick just one. Like I think they're all well done and they all have their merits and they all have their downfalls. Even with Joker, I can't even say Joker's my favorite. Like I think they do a great job depicting every villain in their own light.
you
Yeah,
brought up
and
a lot of good points.
yeah, a lot of good points there. Honestly, I think as far as characters go, Tommy Lee Jones' rendition of Two-Face was probably my
Yeah.
favorite.
Mhm.
Say what you want about how Val Kilmer was in that movie. Say what you want about anything in that movie. Obviously, I love Jim Carrey. He played a very good Riddler. He's definitely up there on the list. But I really liked how I prefer Tommy Lee Jones, Two-Face, over the guy that played Harvey Dent in the Christian
Dark
Bale
Knight.
series, the Dark
Yeah.
Knight series. Now, both, like, depending on what style of comics you read, both kind of have the look of Two-Face in their, from depending on what comics you looked at. But
hmm
when I look at Tommy Lee Jones's Two-Face, I think more of the DC universe. I think more of DC villains. When I
Yeah.
look at I can't remember the guy's name, but when I look at his version of Two-Face, I'm just like, he looks the part. Didn't really, I don't know.
Play the part too.
He didn't play the part all that well, in my opinion. So I really liked Tommy Lee Jones's rendition of Two-Face. I think that probably goes down as my favorite, besides the Joker.
That's fair. He had a little bit more of a goofiness to him, but it shows like what he's been through and how he copes with that as well. And I think the dynamic between him and Jim Carrey's Riddler was also really well done
Yeah.
as villains
Yes.
as well. Like I think they did that good too. That movie, all in all, they did a good job. I just wasn't a fan of who they casted as Batman. It's really what it was for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I get Michael Keaton was getting older and stuff like that, but I feel like if they were going to continue that path of, because that's technically supposed to be a continuation of Tim Burton's first two films.
Yep.
So I wish they would have just went ahead and kept Michael Keaton as Batman, because I mean, Michael Keaton's getting older, but so is Batman in that time frame. So why not just keep Michael Keaton as him?
Also, you can't even use that argument anymore. Look at the Flash movie. You can't use that argument anymore. He's getting older. Dude's old now and he's playing Batman again.
Yeah, this is true. So
he just wanted to get nuts one more time.
Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. Michael Keaton, hands down, my favorite Batman. There's so many freaking things that we could talk about. We could literally make us a 5-hour podcast just talking about the movies and everything like that, the TV shows, all this stuff. The kid that played Bruce Wayne, the young Bruce Wayne in the Gotham series, he did a pretty good job, I thought.
Yeah,
so,
I still need to watch that, but
yeah, I still need to finish it. I mean,
I've seen like a couple episodes of it.
let me tell you this. They did a great job ending that. It was a masterpiece. I'm not
Well,
gonna say any more to not spoil it for you guys, but they did a great job ending that.
with that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the main event of the evening.
Ending.
We are talking about the Arkham series. Guys, this is something I've been looking forward to this whole entire podcast, is talking about the Arkham series. Because this was the games of all games, in my opinion. Let's kick it off with Arkham Asylum, the first game that they made. Obviously, not the first in the storyline, because we have Arkham Origins come out. We'll talk about that here shortly. But Arkham Asylum, Flash, give us a rundown of Arkham Asylum real quick.
Well, you basically didn't leave the asylum the whole time, as applied by the name of the game.
Wait,
But you
so
didn't need
But
to have fun though.
but it was a lot of fun, and an interesting fact that I don't know how many people realize this, but the further you get through the game, the more Batman's suit takes damage.
Oh yeah,
Throughout the entire game, his suit just slowly takes more and more damage, and it was kind of cool to see that because I didn't notice it at first. I'm like, oh, that's weird. I'll probably go somewhere and the damage will be gone. It wasn't, and I like progressively noticed his suit just get more and more battered throughout the time. Um, but I mean, I think they did a good job introducing you to the general storyline. You didn't really know what was gonna like. It was basically a first movie version of games. Like, it introduced you to everything, and you didn't really know where the story was gonna go beyond that.
yeah. It was. I just this game, like it was my childhood. Like it was my later years of my childhood, but it was my childhood, man. So basically, what ends up happening is you capture the Joker at the start of the game. Well, you don't, but Batman captures the Joker at the start of the game, brings him to Arkham Asylum, and then you actually get to walk with him and the doctors. Obviously, he's strapped to a freaking board, but you get to walk with the doctors and to keep an eye on the Joker, and everything. And already you're starting to see, like, some of the thugs that you'll be facing. You see Killer Croc. Like, you just see a whole cast of characters as you're like walking the Joker, supposed to be walking him to like the examination, and supposed to be going to his cell and everything like that. All right, but you get about halfway there, you get to where the cell block is, and then everything goes haywire. Just everything goes haywire. All of a sudden, Zaz gets out, but like, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. But the Joker, you know, everything goes black. Joker gets off the board. He escapes. Obviously, he doesn't escape the asylum, but he is going to take over the asylum. He's going to go after the warden, capture him, everything like that. And that is, and this part right here was where the famous line, "Welcome to the Madhouse, Batman," was, and that's why I used it in the intro. That is where that was said. But you go through a whole fight, trying to get back to him. You end up coming across Victor Zsasz, which that character was done well in the game. And then you keep going through, and you just keep fighting different villains that of all of Batman's villains. You fight Bane, you fight Killer Croc. Well, you mostly run from Killer Croc, but you get the idea. You guys get the idea on that one.
I mean,
So
he's a
very well done.
human gator thing. Batman's
You're
best
gonna
chance
run.
is outsmarting him, not fighting him in hand-to-hand combat. So
Well, I mean, we learned that it's not best to fight Bane hand to hand, but Batman still does it anyways. On
it
different
takes
occasions
trial and
too.
error. Takes
Yeah,
trial and error.
Takes a big set of cojones.
which I
But
So,
have.
anyways, so back to the game. Like, what to you guys? What was the best thing in this game? That just made you fall in love with it?
Mark Hamill's acting. Honestly, like, when it comes to video games, I'm huge on world building and like story, and that was just his acting drove the story. Him and uh Kevin Conroy's acting just
Yep.
drove that story so well, and I loved that they brought them back for this game as well.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Now, like even the controls, they were simple, easy to remember, and you could also enjoy the game and not have to be like, I died again, sort of thing. And the game just overall, the playability and everything was very enjoyable.
I loved the game mechanics. Like I'm just doing the same thing that you were saying. Like game mechanics were like super easy to remember and stuff like that. It was easy to play. Loved all the actors together again, and I definitely enjoyed like the storyline, like fighting all the villains and stuff like that. And I remember being terrified of the Scarecrow whenever I got to his part. Like he would always like go in the shadows and stuff like that, and like make you hallucinate.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh
when
my gosh, that
I think I
we
was like
played that
10 or
game,
11 when I played it first. So
yeah, we played those games when we were young. The
yep.
Scarecrow actually did give us nightmares. It was
Yep.
terrifying.
So when he was releasing the fear toxin into Batman, essentially he was releasing the fear toxin into you because you were scared. Yeah, Scarecrow was another good addition to that, and you get to go against Scarecrow also much later in the series as well. But yeah, the story arc was absolutely incredible. Um, it was its own it was its own thing, the story, and it carried on, but they didn't play off of anything. They made their own story, as far as the Titan formula, everything like that, and how it was affecting Bane. And then you find out that the Joker's trying to use it to create his own little army of psychotic you know
He,
freaks. Yes.
yeah, beefed up goons that he's experimenting on, but lo and behold, you only find out he's doing that to ultimately see how it will affect him.
that's the way to do it, honestly.
Was he actually planning to use it on himself, like, or was that like a last ditched effort because he couldn't beat Batman, so he figure screw it, pal, and then grows into the freakish monster that he was.
I think it's a bit of both.
Good point.
I think like he knew that if it came to it, he would use it, but he wanted to make sure it was okay for him to use first.
Yep.
And not kill him instantly.
Like it was a contingency, like because we know the Joker is a master planner. Like he
Yeah.
plans
Oh yeah.
everything down to
He's
the
like
last. He
crazy
has
smart.
backup plans for his backup plans.
Yeah,
And
like
like, so realistically, him doing that, I think was planned to an extent anyway. It may not have been his first plan, but it was a plan.
like you said, it was a contingency. And it's like you guys were saying, Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy being the voice actors for Batman and the Joker. I look at it like this: as Batman and Joker need each other, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, same thing. When you think of Batman and Joker, you think of Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy. It was a very, very well put together game, and it just continued. The fun continued into Arkham City. Yes,
Oh,
it did not stop at Arkham Asylum. So, since things at Arkham Asylum kind of went kapow and basically blew sky high, they decided that they were going to turn a quarter of the city into basically a prison. That works, right? That's really smart. You put all of
not
the
a bad
all of
idea.
the super villains
In
in
the
a
same neighborhood.
yeah,
I
in the
see the
same
logic.
neighborhood.
I see the
Yeah,
logic. Solid.
and
Nothing could
the
go
only thing
wrong.
that you got separating
Yeah,
them
exactly.
is a giant border, but obviously none of that was working. So,
Um, no, but but let's be honest with Arkham City though. If you didn't use the Batman Beyond skin, what were you doing?
oh
Yeah.
yeah, 100%, 100%. You had to use the Batman Beyond skin. That was an awesome addition that they added to the game, by the way. So this one, you go up against, I think you start off going up against like Two-Face and stuff like that. Well, first off, you're going up against goons as Bruce Wayne, and you're fighting these goons,
And
and
you're
everybody's just like,
handcuffed.
Yeah, and then eventually you break out of the handcuffs, and then you've got full combat ability, except for not having the suit, which you're able to climb up to the roof and get your suit. But one of the main antagonists in this game was Hugo Strange. Now,
Hugo Strange.
if you're like me, you didn't know too much about Hugo Strange before the Arkham series. That is actually what introduced me to the character of Hugo Strange, was the Arkham series, and you'll see him in the Gotham series as well for a brief stint. But Hugo Strange basically is trying to make everybody better, I guess, in his own twisted mind. And you go up against you go up against all different kinds of characters. You go up against the Penguin again. You go up against in the Iceberg Lounge. I think you go up against Freeze too. Yeah, you go up against Freeze. And here's another.
It's been a while since I've touched upon
Yeah.
that game, but I think you also, I'm pretty sure, were able to swap between Batman and Catwoman in that game as well.
And that was I was actually getting ready to touch on that. You get to actually switch over and be Catwoman. Actually, there's times that you have to switch over and be Catwoman because Batman is preoccupied. Trying not to die. And by that, I mean the Joker intoxicated Batman with the gas mask, and basically, I guess he put his essence into his Batman blood. With that, his blood. That's right.
He gassed him with the gas mask to make him pass out, and then he tied him to a chair, and while he was out, injected him with his blood. When he woke up, he's like, "By the way, I did this. You're now part of me."
And now and the reason he did it was because he knew that Batman was going to do everything he could to try and find a cure, and that was Joker's plan with that, was he wanted Batman to find the cure so he could get it.
But there was a flip side to that, and like I previously touched upon, he has contingencies for his contingencies. So he figures, oh, I inject Batman with my blood. He finds a cure. Or, on the flip side of that, he doesn't find a cure, I die, but he's now me.
Yep. And that's the twisting part of it. That's the total mind that you deal with in this. So, you start, you're sick. You're partly trying to find a cure, but you're also trying to fight off all the baddies and everything like that, which, you go up against, somewhat go against Talia al Ghul. You at least see her, and you see the kind of the love affair or whatever you want to call it between those two, Batman and Talia. And I can't remember, did she mention them having a child together? Because I know that they did have a Damien in the comics. I know that
if it was mentioned, I think it was more of a teaser than anything else. I'm not sure. That sounds right, but I don't 100% remember because, like I said, it's been a hot minute since I played those games.
Yeah, we need to replay them.
Mm-hmm. So, but anyway, so you go up against Talia. This is the first game that you go up against Clayface. I don't think you go up against Killer Croc. You do go up against Two-Face, Penguin, and here's one thing that we didn't even talk about in on the last game. The Riddler. The Riddler challenges. As much of a pain in the ass those things were, they were actually kind of crucial to the game. All of them.
Helped you put away the rest of the bad guys, at least. You needed to get all those dang Riddler trophies to get 100% completion.
Or, well, it was the trophies, and then it was also like little riddles that he had. You had to find the question mark with your
detective mode.
Yeah, your detective mode. You had to find the question marks, and you had to line those up perfectly. That was probably the part that annoyed me the most, was trying to line those up perfectly.
I think my least favorite part was those stupid races in Arkham Knight. My God, those were the biggest pain in the butt. Was those races.
And the thing of it is, I did not like in Arkham Knight. I didn't like using the Batmobile and that, but we'll get to that. So going down further down the rabbit hole. Oh yeah, speaking of the rabbit hole, you also go up against Mad Hatter, I believe, in Arkham. It was either Arkham City or maybe that was Arkham Origins. No, you face off against him in Arkham because you have the bunny mask. You end
Yeah,
up with the bunny
you're
mask or
going
whatever.
through Wonderland,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Which basically you're just drugged.
Yeah, and that was really trippy, honestly, was
Oh, it
doing
really
that.
was.
Like, I was looking at it, like, I was like that person leaned up against the screen watching everything going on because it was just a haze.
Imagine playing that while you're high. Take that and times it by 10, maybe.
I would just be like, what is going on? That would be so trippy.
So yeah, the Mad Hatter was definitely a good addition to it. So anyways, going further down the rabbit hole, basically end up defeating Hugo Strange. Not much of a fight that was, I don't think. But the main thing was, I think Clayface played a part in the Joker's aspect because I think he turned into the Joker. Or was it Clayface or was it? No, it was Clayface.
Clayface.
He
yeah,
played,
because that was in the movie theater.
Yeah, because he made it seem like the Joker was he played the version of Joker that was fine, that was cured.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, the real Joker was, behind the scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
and I'm pretty sure.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, at certain points, if you're like in the detective mode and you're looking at the Joker, if he doesn't have a skeleton, that's Clayface right there. Then, because like at certain points you can do the detective mode and like he'll have a skeleton, but then at other points he doesn't have a skeleton. So I think it's Clayface when he doesn't have a skeleton, or it's just a continuity error.
Something I'm gonna have to go back and look at.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at that.
So anyways, then the fight with the Joker goes on, and then you guys end up down towards the Lazarus Pit, which the cure is the vial that had the cure in it is busted, and the Joker tries to. I think he was originally trying to get in the Lazarus Pit there, but then Batman had the vial busted, and then he tried like licking it up off the ground.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, you did do that. Yeah.
And then
I think the whole like you finally see in those moments like the Joker is afraid. Like he's actually scared. He's like, I have no plan for this. Like he was not ready to lose. And that's a very interesting thing because you almost never see the Joker like that.
Yep. And I mean, here we are, the Joker scared for the first time that we see. And it's because I'm going to die. And I don't have a way to stop this now.
Yep.
And then ultimately he ends up dying. Batman saves the day again. Everything is quote unquote fine for now. Until it's not. But we'll get to that after we talk about how the story of Batman and the Joker began. And that is going back to Arkham Origins, which goes back to Batman, Bruce Wayne's younger years, when he first started out as Batman, and the police did not like him. Commissioner Gordon wasn't commissioner at the time, but even he didn't like him, I think, at that time.
Not
yet, anyways.
When he first starts out, he doesn't like Batman because he thinks, oh, he's taking the law in his own hands. And that's the same with anything Batman. Like, he doesn't like him at first until he realizes when cops in the city are corrupt, so that's not gonna, like, so they might as well resort to some vigilante with bat ears to help us save this city because the cops ain't gonna do it right. If the cops aren't doing it right, then might as well use someone else who's doing more good. So
right. So Arkham Origins is the first time that we see Roman Sionis, otherwise known as Black Mask. Now we've seen different renditions. Obviously, Roman Sionis was also in the Arkham, or not the Arkham, hello, in the Gotham series for a short time. But I did not. I will say I did not like the mask that he had in the
Yeah.
Gotham series. Did not like that mask. But anyways, Roman Sionis is the main villain that you face off against. When you come to find out that he is actually, maybe at the beginning he was your main villain, but later on down the road, surprise, the black mask comes off and we have a new villain, which not new to us because we've seen the Joker so many times. But the Joker reveals himself for the first time in this game. I don't know why I keep staring over here, but the Joker reveals himself for the first time in this game, and obviously it was played by a different voice actor. It was not Mark Hamill, but whoever it was that they had play or voice his character did a very good job, made it sound very close. A very young Mark Hamill is kind of like what it sounded like.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got this brand new villain that you've got to face off against. You're fighting off against Deathstroke. Pretty sure Deadshot's in this as well. So Bane is, yes. Oh man, I think that fight with Bane was a lot worse than the fight that you had in Arkham Asylum.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And also, like, just the whole animation style behind that game too was just different from the rest of the Arkham series as well. Like, they went off on their own thing entirely for this one game, and then brought back the old style when the next game came out. But
well, I mean, we are talking about a younger version of Gotham in this, so I guess maybe things needed to be different. Of course, I think that it was actually somebody different that made that game. That actually technically was, but wasn't. I can't remember if I heard that correctly, but I think it might have been somebody different. It was still Warner Brothers that produced it, but I think the original writers didn't want to continue the Gotham or the Arkham series. But I'm pretty sure it was different writers that did that game, but they still did a fantastic job. They still did a fantastic job on the game.
I just looked it up, and it was Troy Baker who is the Joker.
Okay, so it was a different joke.
Yeah. But yeah, so this game, basically everything leads to Blackgate Prison. This is before Arkham. I think it was either before Arkham was built or it was as Arkham was being built. Arkham obviously was not completely finished at the time, so like all of the insane prisoners were at Blackgate Prison, and that's where you go up against. I think this is where your relationship with Jim Gordon really starts, because Jim Gordon and the Warden were like trapped in Blackgate, and your job was to save them, or I think it was to save Jim Gordon, because he was in the electric chair or something like that, and every time like you messed up, he got shocked.
That sounds familiar. I think Arkham Origins has been the longest since I've seen that one.
That's because they didn't remaster that one. That was the one that they did not remaster. Obviously, Arkham Knight you could play on Xbox One because it was one of the first games that came out for the Xbox One. But they remastered Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, but they did not remaster Arkham Origins. So, which you can still play because they do have the backwards compatibility for it. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure, yeah, you have to like save Jim Gordon in Blackgate Prison. The Warden is, I think, dead or something like that. And yeah, so basically it's another Batman versus the Joker in this game, which it's been pretty much how it was in all the games, even the last one. Even though you weren't technically facing off against him, in the last one you still had to deal with him.
It was more of a mental battle.
Yeah,
mental
battle.
But I think Origins really did give us that like genuine Batman Joker fight that we wanted the whole time. Like, that was the primary focus of the entire game, it was revolving around that fight. But all the other games, you had this villain here, this villain there, you could fight them, and they were all decently big sized battles. And the big bad in the end usually wasn't the Joker necessarily all the time. So, I mean, like, the Joker played a big role, but that wasn't always the primary focus either. I think this game, Origins, gave us that true Batman versus Joker that we had been wanting.
Yeah, and another great thing about it was this was the first time you got to play as the Joker. Because it was at a point you were trying to figure out who the Joker was, and then it like flipped the script on us, and we were like walking through something, but you were playing as the Joker, and like causing mayhem, destruction, and it's basically kind of learning about how Joker got his start, basically. And that was really cool. It was a cool aspect. So they gave us both sides of the story, basically. I really enjoyed it. I thought Arkham Origins was very well written, very well done, very well played. So, but
It really
I really
does.
enjoyed it.
It also does throw you to a simpler sort of gameplay as well. It takes you back to how, like, because as the Arkham games progressed, they slowly got more and more complex. There were more controls, there were more things you could do. But this one took you back to like that Arkham Asylum level of gameplay where it was simpler again, and it was like kind of nostalgic in a way when that game came out. And like, granted, these games didn't come out that far apart from each other.
I think it was within
But
like 5 years, like all the games came out.
exactly. But for video games, that's not a long period of time.
It's a really
So,
short amount of time for 4 games to come out.
exactly.
Games.
And like, I think this took us back to that more starting point of where it all began, which kind of follows that sort of feel of this is supposed to go before Arkham Asylum.
6 years. 2009 was when Arkham Asylum came out. 2015 was when Arkham Knight came out.
Yeah, and that's not bad for a video game series.
No, not at all.
Origins was just at 10 years old.
Really?
Thank you for making me feel even older than what I wanted to.
Honestly.
Welcome.
So,
Asylum was 14 years old.
What's 14?
Arkham Asylum is 14 years old. Like, it came out 2009.
I was 10 when that game came out?
What are you talking about? I can't believe I was still in high school. I still had 2 years left in high school.
I was 10 when that game came out.
Gosh, I'm old.
Jesus.
Okay. Getting off on a tangent here. All right.
Now that we all feel old.
Yeah. Now let's get to the finale, should I say. Arkham Knight, released in 2015. It was good. It wasn't my favorite of the Arkham series, but it served its purpose, hands down. Joker is dead. That much was clear, especially at the beginning of Arkham Knight. You literally get to burn the Joker. You literally get to just burn his entire corpse, and then that turns into the Batman logo.
What if you play in Nightmare mode? If you play it in Nightmare mode, you get a little jump scare. In that scene.
Yes, I remember that. Yes, because he's like, yeah, and it just comes to life right there at the end while you're trying to burn him.
It just screams in your face, and I literally threw my controller in that moment.
So after you burn the Joker, you come to, you're not even Bruce Wayne yet. You are actually in the you're not playing. I think you can move around as him, but you are actually a Gotham PD police officer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
Yep. And this is when I think you're at a diner, and all of a sudden the fear toxin was released into Gotham, all around Gotham, and everybody around you starts going crazy. You start going crazy. And just everything is like, people screaming, and it's just like, what the heck's going on? And then all of a sudden you see, I think Scarecrow popped up on the television in the diner, and then that's when you're like, oh, okay, so now we see who the main villain's going to be this time. It's Scarecrow.
And people just start attacking each other and everything. And then next thing you know, it cuts to like this little cutscene of all some of the major Batman villains just causing mayhem in the city because they have free reign to now.
Yep. So, And at this point, Batman's getting up there in age. I think he was already starting to contemplate retirement because of the illness that he was dealing with, which we'll get into here shortly. But he's already getting up there in age, and stuff like that. I do want to say one thing. You guys remember Scarecrow from Arkham Asylum, right? How he looked.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, was a full-fledged bag with glowing eyes and a glowing mouth.
Yeah.
Can I just say that their transformation of Scarecrow was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
It was excellent because you go from that to kind of like it was kind of like a skull face. He didn't really have a nose, and his teeth were showing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like he just looked more grotesque, and he looked like a supervillain. He looked the part.
And the person who voiced him did such a good job too.
Oh, yes, 100%.
Capturing the haunting voice of Scarecrow. Did a great job.
And like it, and how it. Yes, his voice was great for it, but how he talked too, it was kind of slow and demanding. Hello, Batman. Yeah, it's just like it put chills up your spine.
And you can't even mimic it.
Now.
Like
No.
he did such a good job with that voice. It was one of a kind. And like I've played games like Injustice, and even that does not capture the just darkness of that character that Arkham Knight did. It's unparalleled.
And speaking of darkness, the whole entire game was dark. All right, because you have to relive Jason Todd's death. All right,
which I want to say they did a really terrible job at introducing that, because nowhere is a Robin even mentioned until Nightwing shows up in one game, and then no Robin is ever mentioned again until all of a sudden there's Jason Todd in your hallucination, and he's like dying, and it's showing his death, but you never even introduced him as a character ever in the game.
So, and like it's like they had to piece it together just so you could be ready for a big reveal, which we'll get to in a second. Stay with us, folks. So, you see that you think there's a point where you start hallucinating and you think Barbara Gordon is dead. You think that she gets killed. Scarecrow kills her. Actually, I think you see her get shot or whatever. And you go through a phone call that he has with Jim Gordon, trying to explain that Jim, your daughter's dead, and then it ends up not being Jim Gordon. But the first big reveal that I'm going to talk about is when you were trying to shut down, I think it's a reactor or something or other. And then all of a sudden you start hallucinating. And then, surprise, guess what, Batman? I'm back. The Joker rears his ugly head.
You were trying to stop Scarecrow from dispersing fear toxin on a grand scale. That's what it was. And you were taking out the fear toxin canisters, but you had to do it really slowly. Ridiculously slowly. That it got so boring doing that mission.
And then you got to the last
then the Joker shows up.
Yep, and it made it not so boring.
Shows up.
Yeah, we find out that it's actually all an illusion in Batman's brain because he is still sick from the toxic blood from the Titan mashed blood that was in the Joker was put into Batman. If you remember back in Arkham City, all right, that the Joker infected Batman. So now we're starting to put the pieces together, and Joker's explaining it. You're becoming me. I am in you. That sounded wrong, but so you are slowly losing your damn mind, and you're trying to figure out how you can stop it. But at the same time, you're having to still go up against Scarecrow and all the other villains that you have to face in Arkham Knight, including the Arkham Knight himself. Now, this one was kind of weird because we only see this character as a different character, but this kind of, it was kind of trippy. So, Flash, who actually ended up being the Arkham Knight?
One character who I just mentioned, they did a terrible job of introducing into the series, Jason Todd,
Seen it.
aka the former Robin, who they introduced absolutely horrendously, and I think the only reason they did it was to make him the Arkham Knight. And I think they could have done a lot better, but it still did give me goosebumps to see who it was.
Absolutely. And the thing of it is, like, so I guess they're saying, so are they trying to say that this was before he became Red Hood? Because you don't really go up against Red Hood. Yeah, you don't go up against Red Hood at all.
He becomes, in a matter of speaking, he becomes Red
This is when
Hood.
he was still bad, and then yeah, okay.
Yeah, because
And
that
and Red
fight
Hood was like his redemption.
well, because when you and him are fighting, he's Arkham Knight, but then he comes to help you afterwards, and instead of the Arkham Knight mask, it's just red.
Yeah.
So I think it was his
He still had the Arkham A on his chest and everything like that. He still had like part of that suit, I think, but I think the mask did change.
well, because if you remember, it's a hollow mask.
Yeah.
So he could change it to whatever he wanted it to, and I'm pretty sure he just changed it to all red.
Yeah. So yes, Jason Todd was the Arkham Knight. And the reason why this game is probably the one that I've not played through for a second time, really, or a third time, like I have the other ones, is because of the freaking mechanics. The mechanics of this game were so complex. Like you said, Flash, they are so freaking complex.
Yep.
Having to try and figure out how to work the freaking Batmobile, and all the new gadgets that they try to introduce on top of the ones that you already were introduced to, which you already have unlocked. But you still have more coming, and it was kind of overwhelming if I had to put a name on it.
Yeah, no,
So
it definitely gave us a lot of to focus on, and then on top of allowing you to use the Batmobile as well, and there were a whole another set of mechanics for that as well, and then there were driving mechanics for the Batmobile and fighting mechanics for the Batmobile. It wasn't like the Arkham series that we've been playing. It's like
yeah.
someone else took control of the wheel and was like, how much can we add to this game? It was a good game. Story was solid, but the mechanics needed some work.
Yes, 100%. Sorry. So back into the story part of it. Yes, as we mentioned, it gets down to it. Jason Todd ends up actually helping you towards the end. You do find out that Barbara is actually still alive. Of course, you find out that not too long after you think that she died. You got Jim Gordon. You're also trying to save. Everything basically comes down to one big, I guess you could call it a finale of the Arkham series. All right, so we found out that Batman is slowly losing his mind. All right, he was still trying to figure out how he could reverse the effects the Joker put into him. Because somewhere in the game we find that he has got other people that Joker has infected with his blood. He's got them in these I call them drunk tanks. But they're like
cells.
personal holding cells.
Yeah, they're really cells.
But it's to keep them there because they're all already to the point where they're psychotic. One was actually closely resembling how the Joker was. It was actually an old man that was probably the most like Joker.
Well, once it hit him, but it took the longest to hit him as well. Like he seemed fine
That's
one minute, and then all of a sudden it was just like the Joker.
He came back to them, and there he is. He's acting like the Joker. Which is crazy to think that Joker's blood did that. It's crazy to think that it's just a blood transfusion that ended up causing stuff like that. So as I was saying, you're infected with the Joker's blood. Coming down towards the end of it, in walks Scarecrow. Scarecrow's got you trapped. He's got you pinned to a board, kind of like what Joker was attached to at the beginning, which kind of
Makes it come
it
full
kind of comes
circle
full.
almost.
Thank you. Yes, it's like it comes full circle. All right, because basically you've got Joker on a board again, and then when Scarecrow goes to try and release his fear toxin, which he had those needles on his fingers, and he releases the fear toxin in you. You're fighting it, and then all of a sudden, like, it's not
You,
affecting you as much because in comes the Joker taking almost fully control. Actually, I think at one point he had full control over Batman.
well, you can assume that. I think it's safe to assume that, but realistically, you are Batman and Joker fighting in Batman's mind.
Yes. So that's when you go right into Bruce Wayne's brain. And now you are playing as the Joker again, but you are playing as the older Joker. And you are basically fighting off all of the Batmans coming at you because Batman's trying to take his brain back, but Joker's fighting them all off because he still wants control. And then you start smashing all the Batman statues and everything like that because Joker's like, I want this, like, I'm taking over. You're not coming back. You're not doing this to me again. Yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, and it's intriguing too because it's almost like you go through levels in his mind. Like it's like there's this one part, and then there's this other part, and then once you think you're good to go, doors open, and like you're outside, and you think, oh, the Joker's won, and then it just surprises you some more, and it's like, no, actually, Batman has control here, and he's just letting you do what you want to do to get you where he wants to get you, so he can take control back.
yep, and he can shut you away forever. But I think he let him take control just long enough to get Scarecrow to kind of back off a little bit because now at this point Scarecrow's like, what the hell's going on? Like, you should be like full blown screaming right now just because of yourself. And it was at this point it was already revealed, I think, who Batman was because Scarecrow made Jim Gordon take his mask off, and Gordon was like, "No, I'm not going to do it."
And then he's
And
like,
then
if you
Batman's
don't
like,
do it, who was he gonna kill? Do you remember?
"I think,
He was gonna
I think
kill
it was
somebody.
I think it was Robin.
Was it Robin?
I think so. I think Robin was also there. I
Okay, I
think
I mean that would make sense. I just didn't remember who it was.
so. That would,
Um,
I guess, it would have been Tim Drake.
yeah, because Tim Drake was Robin at
So
the time. Yep.
yeah, so I think and then I think he shot Jim in the knee or whatever. So Jim takes the mask off. Boom, Bruce Wayne is Batman. We already knew that, but it was a big shock for everybody in Gotham because it was being recorded live.
Yeah. Yeah, it was live
So
broadcasted on like every channel or something like that, and
TCN and stuff like that.
Scarecrow wanted to make
So
sure everyone knew that who Batman was and that he was not indestructible.
yep, but wasn't he though? I mean, the dude still came back from Joker trying to take over his brain, and still comes back and reverses the fear toxin back on to Scarecrow.
Well,
And now,
because think about it, after that mind battle that he had with the Joker, Scarecrow injects him again
Yep.
because he's like, "What?" And it doesn't work at all. And it just
that's
refutes
when
his
you
point that
realize,
Batman's not indestructible.
yep, and it also refutes the fact that Batman has no fears.
You know what? No, you know why he did it? Because he's Batman. That is the
There you go.
explanation, the ultimate explanation. Because he's Batman.
Plot
That's
armor.
why he can do what he does.
Yep. So, with all that happening, now Scarecrow's defeated. Joker is put into a little box and flicked far into Batman's mind. But now that everybody knows who he is, now it's time to activate Night Protocol.
Nightfall, was it?
Nightfall Protocol is what it was called. Nightfall Protocol. All right. So basically, you go out and you clean up the city, everything like that. You make sure everything's in line. And then once you complete it 100%, you go back to Wayne Manor. And then all of a sudden, kaboom.
Everything explodes. Massive explosion. News reports everywhere saying Bruce Wayne's the Batman, but now he's also dead.
Yep. So, which I don't think he was actually dead. I don't think Bruce Wayne's going to kill himself.
He's on a tropical island in like Tahiti or something.
Oh, he's far away from Gotham. Far away from Gotham.
I mean, you look at any comic, when Batman retires, he goes to a tropical island somewhere far away. Like, he gets away from it all. And he never looks back. Because even towards the end of his career, he's like, Gotham is a cancer. That's what he calls his own city. He's like, there is no saving this city.
And he's not wrong, though. Because no matter how much good he does, no matter how much he's able to stop, how many people he's able to save, Gotham is going to be Gotham. It is going to be a cesspool.
But that also shows the humanity in him as well, as like, he is a person. He is a normal person. He may have a lot of money, but he is a normal person. There's only so much he can do to save the city. And realistically, he should have been dead long ago. So, like, the fact that he's able to do what he did for as long as he did it is impressive.
Oh, guys, this was a fun episode to talk about. We went over Gotham Knights, great game, definitely one that we got to get back into. We went over pretty much everything Batman in the movies. We talked a little bit about the animated series, about Kevin Conroy, and I had to bring up the Joker in this whole thing. But
naturally, there's no Batman without Joker.
Exactly.
But with that topic, just bringing that up, with that in mind, I'm going to bring up our poll real quick.
Yes.
I want to know 2 things with this poll, and leave it down in the comments below. I want to know 2 things. I want to know, 1, who's your favorite Batman, animated or live action, and 2, favorite Joker, animated or live action. Put it in the comments below. We want to know.
Yes, we want to know, because like you said, there is no Batman without the Joker. There is no Joker without the Batman. So it only makes sense for our poll question to involve both.
I think it's Joe Gatto. Impractical Joker.
I know what you're talking about.
Yep.
But yes, leave those answers, those poll answers down in the comments. We want to know what they are. So
yes. But with that being said, guys, I think we've covered pretty much everything that we need to cover as far as like the
everything we can cover.
In the short amount of time
in the
that
first
we have.
Yeah.
Like I said, we could literally take 5 hours just to talk about Batman and everything that is involved in the Batman universe.
I mean, we're almost halfway there.
I mean, as much as we'd love talking out for your ears for 5 hours, and if you're listening to us, clearly you want to listen to us talk about it for 5 hours as well. We'll leave that for another time.
Yes, this literally could probably actually end up being a second podcast, maybe down the road. But I had fun with this, guys. It's always fun talking about Batman. It's always fun about talking about DC, Marvel, you name it. I can't wait to see what else we got in store when we get to our next episode. Who knows what that's going to be? We're going to discuss it, but you guys are going to have to find out next time.
Have a good one, everyone. See y'all later.
Peace out.